Good evening, everyone. Uh, I usually don't understand the academic titles of other people, and I'm going to assume you are of the same intellectual capacity, and I'm going to insult your intelligence by just translating my title to "Why Superman is Good for Your Faith." And Superman in particular, and superheroes in general. Let's see if I stand the test of heresy. So many postmodernist philosophers predicted the end of the meta-narrative. So the Utahs and a bunch of other French people mainly said that the meta-narrative has seen its end. So by meta-narrative I mean stories or philosophies or worldviews that comes objective, considers truth as objective, beauty as objective, evil, good as objective. And they say that this is part of a primitive history that we need to put behind us and move forward to small narratives. So this is part of the postmodernist agenda, where we emphasize the absurd, the subjective, the blurry in our stories. And they prophesied and said that the meta-narrative will soon disappear. And then after blockbuster movies and literature in the form of Superman, Narnia, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Avengers, Christopher Nolan's Batman franchise, etc., I think it's safe to say that they were false prophets. These are all meta-narratives, big stories, who's quite unashamedly about how big evil is, the nature of objective evil, good, truth, beauty, etc. So I suspect that these few postmodernist intellectuals celebrated the death of the meta-narrative a little bit too early, and democracy won in the end by people voting what stories they like. So why do I consider this good news? Because the gospel is a meta-narrative. It contains these aspects, and I think that these stories share some characteristics, a lot of characteristics, with the Jesus story. For instance, a superhero, if you will, whether this is fantasy or whatever the genre you like, goes on a quest. He's got superpowers. He eventually meets an antagonist. He needs to defeat this antagonist. The people he's trying to protect reject him. You guys just can just think of your favorite story. And then they reject the superhero. Despite them rejecting the superhero, he comes back to save them. In the process of saving everybody, he dies. And then when the smoke settles and the dust settles, surprise, surprise, he rises from the dead and our hero lives. Now that sounds very familiar, that kind of story. So whether the evil is an orc, whether the evil is a white witch, whether the evil is Voldemort or something, the hero will ultimately defeat it. It's got a massive cost, but the story ends with resurrection. Now, I've noticed that people like these stories. That's why they keep on making movies about it. But the same culture is not necessarily interested about the Jesus story, the Jesus myth. And I think that they are being hypocrites. They are inconsistent to be excited about the one story and not necessarily in the other meta-narrative. And I would argue that this is the primal story, the Ur-story. So you guys can get your translation for that word. Now there might be this objection, do I just see Jesus as another superhero, another myth? And firstly, I would say that my study leader is Henk Stoker, and he's more conservative than Tuesius. So there's no way that I would have been able to get away with that view, that low Christology. So the short answer is no. A little bit more nuanced answer, to quote G.K. Chesterton, he said that when man searches for God with his imagination alone, we invent mythology. When man searches for God with mind alone, we invent philosophy. And the two streams of mythology and philosophy meet in history in the person of Jesus. It doesn't cease to be myth. It's still myth. It's still beautiful. It's still story. But it's also historical. It's both. And this, by the way, just a fun fact, is why a guy like C.S. Lewis ultimately converted to Christianity. Because of a conversation he had with Tolkien, the writer of Lord of the Rings, who said that Jesus is the true myth. Now, I think this phenomena holds certain missiological advantages. The first job of the imaginative apologist is to create a scenario or a story that the people wish is true or wish was true. And then his job is to show them that it is true. So first to create that yearning, that longing that the story is true, and then to reveal to them that the story is in fact true. So just quickly, why I think I'm not a heretic. The gospel writers did it. They used the same typological method to present Jesus as a second Moses or a second Elijah in subversive ways. They used this typological method. And they used characters that the people knew, and I suspect that people today know Superman better than they know Moses. So if Matthew wrote a book today, he would have used Superman to bring the Jesus story out. I know this is theology faculty, I'm dangerous crap, but you already gave me my master's, so I can say whatever I want. I think he would have used a relevant character, and it would have been characters that we see in popular culture. Then, in the same way that they used old characters to work to the new, the last revelation of Jesus, I would use new characters and work back to the whole person of Jesus. Paul used the same methodology in Acts 17. He subversively positions Jesus as a second Socrates. Also, Jesus used parables, popular stories and characters to convey higher truths. That's why he used the word like. The kingdom of God is like this and this and this. And I think that we can do the same thing. Lastly, I would say that there's something like general revelation. We are all created in the image of God. All truth belongs to God, so we can expect to find truth. We can expect to find theological truth in places like Hollywood, which we usually say is this heathen or hedonistic nest. I think we can expect to find truth there because of God's general revelation. We all share the same yearnings. And then lastly, I would say, from a missiological perspective, art is a better medium to carry ideas than just arguments. When you argue with somebody, they've got dragons waiting before their worldview, and to make sure that anything that attacks that is kept out. But when you come with imagination, when you come with narrative, with story, then you are able to sidestep the dragons that keep watch over their worldview and sneak in from the side. And that is why Superman is good for your brain.
John, thank you so much. Very interesting. And we really trust that your research will also be available to a broader audience. Somehow, maybe in a more popular kind of publication that we would like people also to have access to your file. Thank you so much.